Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I see our numbers climbing, so it looks like everyone's making their way into the room. I am watching our numbers rise just to give us just a second. Okay, well, as people are coming in, I wanted to go ahead and just give you all a welcome. We are going to stick with our time today and still have plenty. I want to ensure that we have plenty of time to celebrate each of our honorees and hear from our wonderful keynote speaker. So thank you all for joining us today. We are thrilled that you're here. For those of you, just a couple of housekeeping items. For those of you who are seeking your CPE certificates, please don't forget to make your request in the chat at the beginning of the program, and then be sure to make a comment at the end of the program as well, just so that we can verify your attendance. And speaking of the chat, since we're not able to be in person with all of our honorees today, feel free to go ahead and shoot a message their way through the chat function so that we can let them all know how excited we are for them and how much we appreciate them for their commitment to ethics. So I think that should be, we want this to be as interactive as possible since we are here via Zoom. And yeah, so please feel free to share your congratulations with our panelists here and our winners. So today, just to do a quick guiding principle, as we do for all of our meetings, today we are highlighting service. And for us, service is defined by a passion for promoting ethics and integrity and encouraging the promotion of ethical behavior through personal actions and sharing ideas and resources. And what better example do we have for this than our award winners themselves? So I'm not going to harp on service today. We are really going to be reflecting on that as we hear the stories of our award winners and hear directly from them. So without further ado, I want to get this awards program started. And our first award will be the Executive Pilot presented to Mo Anderson. And here to introduce you to our winner is Jim Priest, an OK Ethics board member and CEO of Goodwill Industries of Central Oklahoma.
Well, thank you, Bailey, and good morning, everybody. It is a great, delightful honor for me to introduce you very briefly to Mo Anderson. If you've received your program, you can see a full biography of Mo on page 4 of your program. But one of the best ways to get to know Mo is to buy her book. And I'm not getting any commission from promoting this, but she's written a delightful book called A Joy-Filled Life. And just looking at that, you can tell why we are honoring her with the Executive Pilot Award. The Executive Pilot Award's been around since around 2006, and it is OK Ethics' attempt to recognize an individual who's contributed in a significant way to our greater Oklahoma community, both by living a life of ethics and by promoting it and encouraging it in others, in both their personal life and in their professional life. And so Mo has been served in a variety of different capacities. She's been a teacher, a music teacher. She's most notably known for her work in real estate, and she has been involved in the leadership of Keller Williams. And in fact, she's taking time out of a very busy schedule right now. She is involved with a 40,000 person virtual conference training real estate agents. And so we are grateful that she's taking time out. If you look at her book and the chapters, you can tell why she's receiving this award, because chapter titles include things like do the right thing, keep the faith, build a work ethic, set high standards. And so she's done that not only in the book, but also in her life. And so I'm very pleased to introduce you to Mo and to ask Mo to tell us a little bit about herself, and in particular, one defining moment, I think, in her life. Mo Anderson, congratulations. You want to unmute yourself, Mo.
Thank you so much, Jim. You might know that I was highly unsuccessful during my first year in real estate, and I was actually considering getting out of the business, yet ethics kept me in the business. Here's what happened. I found a home for a wonderful young family. Finally, my first sale. And before we went back to the office to write the contract, the buyers said to me, "We can't buy this home through you. We must buy it through Lily Mae Tillman because she's shown us property for 2 weeks. She's purchased lunches, dinners, and we simply cannot do this to her." Well, as they drove away, I cried, and I knew legally it was my sale because I had found the property, but I wasn't about to beg someone to buy from me. That evening, the phone rang. And I want you to know that the buyers said, "We have spoken to Lily Mae Tillman, and she tells us to do the right thing and buy the house through you." And so they did. Now, what did I learn from that experience? Well, I learned that when you do the right thing, you change the course of a life, because the people may not know that your life has changed, but for me, I continued in the real estate business instead of getting a master's degree and going back into teaching. So Lily Mae Tillman became my hero. And because she taught me the greatest lesson of my business life, do the right thing, I paid a lot of honor to this wonderful woman. Now, how do we live ethically in real life? That's the question. And I believe it is by deepening our faith, because our values are driven by our faith, and then we develop our standards through our values. And I've learned that when you know what you believe, decisions come easier. And though they may be easy, sometimes the implementation of the decision is really very, very hard. Now, let me give you an example. One of our most profitable owners on the East Coast got caught sending pornography through our servers. And I want you to know we weren't going to tolerate that. And because I was CEO at the time, I invited him to come see me. After our tech people proved to him that the emails truly did come from his computer through our servers, he then sat down across the table from me. He looked at me, and I looked at him. There were no hellos, no niceties, and I said to him, "We are not a match. And you have two choices. Number one, we can resolve this in a court of law, or you have 30 days to sell your Keller Williams office to someone that we would approve. 30 days. And the choice, you see, is yours." He looked at me and he said, "But Mo, you're a Christian and you have to forgive me." And I said, "You know what? I might if I heard a sincere apology." Well, he proceeded to give me a sincere apology. I looked at him in the eye and I said, "I forgive you." Now, you have two choices. Choice number one is we can resolve this in court, or choice number two, you have 30 days to sell your office. Now, the issue here is forgiveness doesn't require compromise, because forgiveness is forgiveness and standards are standards. It's really about standing strong on what is right. And when standards are based on values and values come from faith, we have the power to stand strong and not compromise. Oh, by the way, he chose to sell his market center to someone that we did approve. I am so proud of OK Ethics. I can't tell you how proud I am, because you're teaching the 6 principles of ethics that are founded on eternal truths. They're not situation ethics. And you're absolutely moving toward your dream of having an ethical Oklahoma. I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do. And I especially thank you for this wonderful award.
Thank you, Mo. That was wonderful. We are so fortunate to hear from your experience today and are just delighted to honor you with this, as you are just such a wonderful example of what living with integrity can do. So thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, our next award category are the Community Impact Awards. These awards recognize organizations that are positively impacting their communities in ways that inspire integrity. And I can say that each of the organizations that are recognized today are doing exactly that. I'm pleased to announce that our first winner of the Community Impact Awards for 2020 is Stinnett and Associates, who has won in our business category. So as a professional advisory firm, Stinnett and Associates believes that in order to provide the highest level of service, they must always start with their why. They have found the reason their business exists is to care greatly for their team members, clients, and communities they serve. Stinnett's business is guided by their core values of professionalism, integrity, employee synergy, client service, entrepreneurial spirit, and stewardship. These values not only influence their operations, but overflow into the community through their employees' work in higher education. Over the past 5 years, Stinnett's recruitment team has participated in more than 120 campus-seeking engagements, networking, and mentoring events, with a goal to instill a sense of ethics within tomorrow's leaders. Company leadership really does set the tone for Stinnett's culture of ethics. Their managing director, Melinda Stinnett, often shares her insight in creating a positive culture at workshops and other speaking engagements, which then equips other business leaders with the tactics they can use to strengthen the culture within their own organizations. The team at Stinnett has created its own initiative to ensure all employees are prepared for ethical interactions with one another, clients, and their communities. The GRACE Committee, which stands for Giving, Respect, and Acceptance with Care and Empathy, is a team member-led and provides a listening platform that brings awareness to doing what is right. The committee recently hosted its first Care Greatly conversation led by an external facilitator that focused on racism in America. Stinnett believes it is their moral obligation as an employer to bring awareness to diversity and inclusion and to educate its team members in these areas. The company recognizes that even small organizations have the power to contribute to a more open, diverse, and inclusive society. Stinnett has remained committed to caring greatly for their community during COVID-19. They created a social media series titled Stinnett Supports Local to highlight 15 local businesses nominated by employees. And despite changes in their physical work environment through the pandemic, Stinnett honored its commitment to 11 summer interns representing 4 universities by conducting a virtual 5-week internship. The company wanted to give these students a glimpse into ethical leadership and character building, as well as with valuable professional experience. Stinnett's core values provide the foundation for the firm's culture of ethics and propel the company to be a driving force for the promotion of integrity within our state's business community. So Stinnett and Associates, congratulations, and accepting on their behalf is Tara Mundell.
Thank you so much, Bailey. Yes, my name's Tara Mundell. I'm a principal with Stinnett and Associates, And on behalf of Stinnett, we are humbled to be named the Community Impact Award winner in the business category. Thank you so much to OK Business Ethics. But we could not have achieved this honor without our amazing team. They truly are the face of Stinnett and uphold our values and guiding principles every day. And just as Mo reminded us, Stinnett was founded on doing the right thing. And our core values provide the foundation for our firm's culture of ethics and promotion of integrity within the business community. As Bailey said, our firm's primary reason for existence is to care greatly for our team members, our clients, and the communities we serve. This motto was unveiled in 2019 as our why statement. As leaders, we strive to ensure ethics is woven into the fiber of our organization to prepare and educate our team members for ethical interactions with all stakeholders. Again, thank you guys so much, and a big congratulations to all of today's award recipients.
Thank you, Tara. And now for our education category, Metro Technology Centers for the second year in a row has won the Community Impact Award, showing their continued commitment to ethical behavior. Metro Technology Centers believes, as Martin Luther King Jr. did, that intelligence plus character, that is the true goal of education. Following the wise words of this great leader, Metro Technology Centers provides cutting-edge, hands-on, skilled training and career technical education paired with character core initiatives to prepare people for successful employment and life in a global society. Leaders initiating Character Core to recognize, demonstrate, and reinforce ethical values for students, staff, and community. Character Core is comprised of 49 character traits that are prominently incorporated into the daily activities of students and staff alike. This begins with Character Core's incorporation into staff and student orientation and remains available through their magazine and promotion of their character traits of the month. Metro Tech has trained more than 1,000 full-time secondary and adult students in Character Core, and dedication to their guiding principles has been the key to engaging students and staff in consistently exhibiting integrity and good character. Metro Tech assumes responsibility for providing professional leadership in their school as well as their community and maintaining standards of exemplary professional conduct. Every member of the staff adheres to the approved code of ethics and participates in ethics training as part of professional development. Metro Tech's commitment to ethics is even apparent during the employee interview process, as questions about ethical situations provide interviewers the opportunity to assess key behavioral aspects with potential new employees and instill the importance of integrity within applicants. Metro Tech offers in-depth ethics training for its students through the establishment of a high school ethics team. In fact, it is the only technology center in the state who has a high school ethics team. Through their commitment to excellence in education and ethics, Metro Tech has been recognized as a Gold Star school for the last 19 years. In order to receive this distinction, they had to meet a comprehensive set of criteria which establishes technology centers as exceptional in service to patrons of their communities. Their guidance and lifelong learning initiatives support our local metro area by strengthening the workforce through the training of high-quality job candidates. And the combination of their graduates' high level of knowledge, their certifications, and their intrinsic code of ethics makes Metro Tech graduates preferred candidates for positions not only here in Oklahoma, but throughout our nation and world. So congratulations to you, Metro Tech. Miriam Campos is here to accept the award.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you again for having us today. First of all, thank you to OK Ethics on this award and recognition. We take pride in what we do for our students, our staff, and our community, and so this means a lot to us for another consecutive year. We know that there's an entire group, a team that works so hard to make this possible, as you just heard mentioned. And I just want to, again, recognize the work that is being done daily to provide skills that our students will be able to use in their career, but also in their life. And so we take pride in that. We hold them to high ethical standards, and we provide those skills that are developing them within their character, leadership, and integrity. And so again, thank you to Oklahoma Ethics for providing this opportunity and for recognizing the work that Metro Technology Centers is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. We are so proud of you and excited to honor you for yet again this year. And now our final Community Impact Award winner in the nonprofit category is Girl Scouts of Eastern Oklahoma. Girl Scouts of Eastern Oklahoma builds girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. For more than 100 years, integrity has been at the foundation of the Girl Scout movement. The organization's mission and values guide girls to make ethical decisions, build trust through cooperation, and strive for understanding and respect. The Girl Scout Promise and Law outlines Girl Scouts of Eastern Oklahoma's core values, which are integrity, fairness, honesty, caring, and respect. The organization recognizes that these values will have lifelong benefits for girls and provides each and every girl, regardless of their economic circumstance or their physical ability, the opportunity to develop them. Girl Scouts of Eastern Oklahoma represents approximately 10,000 girls and adult volunteers spanning over 30,000 square miles in 30 counties. They champion positive ethical behavior through their innovative leadership development program, the Girl Scout Leadership Experience, which rests on 4 key pillars: STEM, outdoor, life skills, and entrepreneurship. Each of its programs work together to help girls develop a sense of self, positive values, and healthy relationships. These programs also help girls seek challenges and solve problems within their communities. In the onset of COVID-19, Girl Scouts of Eastern Oklahoma sprang into action to protect girls and volunteers, as well as provide assistance to girls and families in need. They developed virtual programs such as Girl Scouts at Home to connect girls who are more vulnerable to isolation. They also made sure girls and troops were not impacted financially due to remaining unsold Girl Scout cookies by taking back all of the unsold boxes, which made them absorb the cost of more than 12,000 boxes. But they showed support for their first responders within the community by donating cookies to area hospitals, fire departments, blood drives, and more. While operations could not continue as usual, Girl Scouts of Eastern Oklahoma remained committed to modeling ethical behavior for girls in their program so that they would know a true example of leadership and community. Girl Scouts of Eastern Oklahoma empowers girls to explore and pursue their interests, learn from failures and successes, challenge themselves, and lead change in their communities. In instilling ethical values that allow girls to value the skills and strengths of others, respect different points of view, and work together to achieve common goals, Girl Scouts of Eastern Oklahoma is developing the change makers of the future. So way to go, Girl Scouts. Here to accept on their behalf is Susan Kinney. I don't know. Susan, are you unmuted?
Thank you to OK Ethics for recognizing Girl Scouts of Eastern Oklahoma today. And we'd also like to recognize the contributions of our staff, volunteers, and most importantly, our frontline troop leaders, excuse me, who helped us continue our work during this just extraordinary year. And we are so appreciative of their effort as well to make sure the girls did not miss a beat, and we're continuing to pursue leadership and practice leadership every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And let's give a virtual round of applause for all of our Community Impact winners. Congratulations, you all. And now our final award for today is our Carmichael Leadership Award. It honors young professionals who demonstrate a strong propensity toward ethical leadership and was named for David B. Carmichael, a professor at Oklahoma City University who started the first student ethics chapter in Oklahoma. This award is intended to further his efforts to mentor and promote ethical principles among young adults. This year's award winner is Isaac Stroup of the Public Utility Division of the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, where he serves as Energy Coordinator. A graduate of Illinois State University, Stroup completed a summer internship with the Maine Public Utilities Commission before relocating to Oklahoma. In his current position, Stroup is part of the Rates and Regulatory Group and became certified as a rate of return analyst with the Society of Utility and Regulatory Financial Analysts. Stroup has distinguished himself as a young ethical leader through his actions within group meetings by ensuring that all participants feel heard, appreciated, and respected. Stroup is a founding member of the Public Utility Division-led Diversity and Inclusion think tank, which has a mission of providing an inclusive environment for employees to feel supported and empowered to share their background, experiences, and ideas. In his personal time, Stroup volunteers at Thelma Parks Elementary School, where he helps students build their math and reading skills and provides extra attention to students who are in need. Stroup and his wife, Jennifer, are active members at the Well Church and more. Well, congratulations, Isaac, and I will let you take the floor for just a moment.
Thank you. I just had a couple of comments I wanted to make. On a personal level, as a Christian, my faith has been essential in shaping my sense of ethics and my integrity. In our work at the Public Utility Division, we work closely with elected officials, other regulating agencies, and the companies regulated by the Commission. Strong ethics are vital in a regulated agency such as the Commission. Since I've been employed there, I've always been empowered to do my work and arrive at recommendations that I believe are right and not subject to outside influence. And now in my role as a coordinator, I get to work to help empower all other team members to do the same. Thank you so much for this award. I'm honored to be this year's recipient. And I want to give a special thanks to Brandy Reith, Jeff Rush, and the rest of the Public Utility Division management team for promoting and maintaining such a healthy workplace and setting great examples for how to be a caring and ethical leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac, and congratulations. What a well-deserved honor for you. And now it is time to get on to our keynote speaker and presentation for the day. I am really pleased to welcome Jill Castilla, who is Citizens Bank of Edmond's President and Chief Executive Officer. Jill joined Citizens Bank of Edmond in 2009, transforming the struggling institution into one of the most innovative community banks in the nation. Under her leadership, Citizens Edmond was one of the first in her state to deploy interactive teller machines, and Citizens Edmond recently applied for a provisional patent for the nation's first unmanned electronic banking facility. Her entrepreneurial and visionary spirit spills over into her community engagement as the founder of Heard on Heard, which a lot of us have probably enjoyed before, a Citizens Edmond sponsored event that draws upwards of 100,000 people into downtown Edmond for a musical festival, local shopping, and food trucks, and it has delivered a $6.2 million impact in Edmond. Jill volunteers her time in several roles nationally as an appointed civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army for Oklahoma and on the board of the American Bankers Association. Locally, she serves on numerous nonprofit boards and was recently on the Governor of Oklahoma's transition team. She currently serves as Dean of the Southwest Graduate School of Banking at Southern Methodist University, as well as a presidential advisor to the University of Central Oklahoma. Jill's innovative leadership has garnered her many awards. She is a 6-time recipient of the American Banker's Most Powerful Women in Banking, Women to Watch, and her Citizens team is a 2-time recipient of the Top Team in Banking. She has been honored in many national publications, as well as locally, as one of the most admired CEOs in Oklahoma by the Journal Record. Jill and her husband have been married for 25 years, and they are the proud parents to 3 children. She is an Army vet, an Army wife, and an Army mom. So Jill, thank you so much for all that you've done in our community, and we are really excited to hear from you today.
Thank you so much. What an honor to join this group and the award recipients. Just a lot of my heroes here in Oklahoma. Mo Anderson, I heard her speak several years ago, and it was during a really difficult time for me. And hearing her story and her resiliency and her adherence to her ethics and how her faith helped her walk through that helped me in a really difficult time. So it was just lovely to hear Mo again. And as I listened to her speak, it's so much ingrained in who I am now that you'll hear a lot of the same themes in this keynote. But congratulations to all the recipients. Everything was just so, I love the caring greatly theme. I might be leveraging that with my own team and celebrating how much you're expected to care about one another in our community. I thought I would share a little bit of our story here at Citizens, because my employment here really started with some great ethical dilemmas. I came to Citizens Bank in 2009. Citizens is a really small bank. We are now just one location, about a $320 million community bank, and traditional and ever since. Started in 1901. We've been on the same intersection for 120 years. I'm originally from Oklahoma, and as an adult, my mother married into the family that has part of the ownership in Citizens. And so I always had a great affinity for the bank. I went to college because the local community banker in my town, Lurleen Mabry, who I carried groceries out for, she's the one that helped me pay to take the ACT and encouraged me to go to college. So I always thought of the community banker not just the person that provides loans and takes deposits from the community, but as someone that has a responsibility to lead within the community and lift up young people and others that may be struggling to find their place in the world, and that there's just a great responsibility that position has in elevating the community and the citizens that comprise it. Whenever I worked at Citizens over 25 years ago in the bookkeeping department right when I graduated from college, and then went on to join the Federal Reserve, and was called back by my stepfather in 2009 when the bank had a difficult examination. In 2009, it was the height of the financial crisis. But in Oklahoma, we were pretty shielded from that. But Citizens had a little bump in the road. So I was recruited to come back, and my husband, I was really excited because I felt like I was joining a family that I had left years before, and kind of coming back as an adult and in more of a leadership position. And he had warned me that I was going to be hated when I walked through the door. And I thought, no, there's just no way. Like, this is my family I'm going back to. And he's like, no, I think that they're in some more trouble than you think that they are, and that you're one that's going to be resolved to fix things rather than stay with the status quo. And I walked in, and I really found a lot of hostility, and people that I thought were friends had a different view of what my purpose was in coming in. Within 30 days, found rampant fraud, several $1 million in expense abuse in a really small bank, tens of millions of dollars of loans that were mismanaged, and a community bank that was really on the verge of not being able to survive through the crisis. We were the lowest ranked as far as profitability and performance bank in the state of Oklahoma, and had vulnerabilities that the regulators identified that were of the highest concern, including a publicly available document that told the world some of the issues that we were having. What we found was, many of the examples actually that Mo had, we found here at this institution, where there just wasn't an understanding of between right and wrong. And at a bank, you have this fiduciary duty to safeguard the assets of your depositors, but again, this higher calling that you're supposed to be this responsible community leader. My motto during that time was, failure is not an option. And so everything was very categorized in good and bad, and worthy and evil, black and white. There were no gray. We implemented a character first initiative to try to really get everyone to understand that it's not okay. You can't lie, steal, or cheat. And it really was starting at those really basic fundamentals of what it takes to be a good person and a good business, and then building off of that to develop a culture. That time was really difficult. I mentioned that the bank, my team members here, I wasn't getting a lot of love from them, but also in our community. I went to get my hair cut across the street here in downtown Edmond. I could look out my window and see where it was. Lovely salon, and the lady's cutting my hair. And she's asking why I moved to Edmond. And I said to join Citizens Bank of Edmond. And she puts down her scissors that she was actively cutting my hair with and said, you need to be careful. There is a lady that works there that's evil. And I said, I think you're probably talking about me. And she said, oh no, you're really kind and sweet. This lady is firing everybody and just changing this community bank, this beloved community bank, in a way that we don't recognize it anymore. And so, I would go to Chamber of Commerce events and stick my hand out and introduce myself to someone, and they literally would throw their hands up in the air and say, I know who you are, and turn around and walk away. It was a really difficult time, but our bank is owned, our largest shareholder is our employee stock ownership program. This was in the shadow of Enron and other situations where fraud and executive abuse had risked the retirements of the employee investors. And so I knew that my responsibility was not just only to the community to ensure that this beloved community bank would survive, but to the team members, many who did not like me very much, that they didn't understand that their own retirements were at risk if this bank didn't survive. And so just one step after another in that effort of just always trying to do the right thing, even though it was quite an overwhelming task. That consistency and trying to be above reproach individually allow there to be kind of one by one the team to join my side, to kind of come to the light. And during the time, it was just an incredible darkness, and it was a period of time where I leaned heavily on my faith, a consistent theme that we've heard from really all the recipients, how that's such a foundation to your ethics. And I love the way that Mo talked about how faith delivers your values, and then values is where your standards come from. And that certainly was what happened to me during that time. I went to a lot of church and I did a lot of yoga, and it really paid so many dividends now as I look back on that time period. Again, that was so devastating, but without that test of character as an individual and even ultimately as an organization, and then for our whole team, we would not have the resiliency and the courage to be able to thrive in the turbulent waters that we're seeing today that COVID has introduced. And so I look back at that time as such a blessing. We ended up orchestrating the fastest turnaround in the nation without adding capital. I failed to mention that because we're owned by our employee group, we really don't have money to be able to invest to increase the capital of the bank. So we had to get very creative to ensure that the bank was above reproach in our practices, but also shrinking the size of our assets and being exceptionally structured and focused on ensuring we were managing the bank correctly going forward. We just didn't have a blank checkbook like many banks really honestly have to be able to add to that part of the equation, to the capital portion. We really had to make sure our assets were strong and valuable and that were not at risk, which they were when I first came. Coming out of that phase, we had worked so hard. I would bring my kids in at 7 o'clock in the morning. That we had 3 children. My husband was living up in northern Minnesota, so I was by myself. We'd bring the kids in at 6 o'clock in the morning. They would watch cartoons while I worked. I'd take them to school, pick them up, and then we would stay at the bank till midnight. And my now 15-year-old, who was just 4 at the time, remembers highlighting general ledger entries whenever I was trying to look for the fraud. It really was a family approach, even though there was really not any work-life balance. It's a time that my family looks on with great favor because they really felt like they were part of something bigger than just the day-to-day activities. They knew that mom had a cause and that we really were trying to do something very good for this financial institution. After we were able to orchestrate the turnaround, we had this team that had gone from 125 team members to 55. We had 6 locations that we consolidated into one here in downtown Edmond. And as if you've gone through any kind of turnaround, there's this great exhilaration that you're through it, but then it's now you're asking kind of, who are you? You're not putting out fires, you're actually trying to now build something. And that transition from being failure is not an option to now let's experiment and fail a little bit and figure out where we're going in the future. And because we had fought for this bank and made it where every single one of my board members, they did not want to sell. They never wanted there to be another name besides Citizens Bank of Edmond on the side of our building. because we had that resolve through that time period, we were able to boldly state that we want this bank to be around for another 100 years. And how do we make decisions today to ensure that we are here for another century? And that whole understanding that you're not only making decisions today for the bottom line, but these are generationally impactful decisions that you're making today, that my children or even my children's children would be the ones inheriting the steps that we took during this time period, was very exhilarating. Our team rapidly implemented an interactive teller at the ATM before they were commercially available anywhere else in the nation. This was not something we went and bought off the shelf. This is something we created with an Oklahoma company, 2 Oklahoma companies. Actually, in just 6 weeks, we provided basically FaceTime at the ATM. This is a service now you see throughout banks around the nation and throughout Oklahoma, but our little bank implemented it for $15,000. These machines now cost $100,000 for your first one. So we started getting these little wins of taking some risk, providing something that didn't expose our customers to risk, but the risk of failure wasn't going to close the doors of the bank like failure would have done before. It was something that allowed this bank to continue with greater relevancy. But the only way that we could do that is that the foundation was very strong and that we knew that we could trust one another, and not only to not lie, cheat, or steal, but we understood that we all had the same intention, that we were all working towards this greater good. And it gives so much great courage, and sorry, we have a phone ringing. Is someone out there? But it just gave us so much courage to try some new things. Fast forwarding ahead to 2020, which I know has been, if it hasn't been challenging for you, I want to have lunch, because I'd love to hear how a normal life sounds like in 2020, because it certainly hasn't been that way for us. But that experience, that turnaround, the time of creativity and this kind of almost a little bit of an arrogance, honestly, that we could create the path of what community banking looks like in the future, not just what Citizens Bank looks like in the future, because no one's really told us what a community bank is going to look like 10 years from now. We know that we have to define that ourselves, and that our team here, these 55 team members, they have the responsibility to do that. So when COVID occurred and we started to see the virus coming towards the United States, our team quickly huddled and just said, we want to make sure our team is safe. We have, my sister has stage 4 colon cancer and works at the bank. And all I could do was think about her and other team members and customers that are either facing health challenges themselves or with family members that are a vulnerable population. And we just felt a responsibility to ensure that we were creating the safest environment as possible. We had very little information as far as what a safe environment could look like, or even what the impact of the virus could be. So we immediately sent 95% of our staff at home. And because we made some really bold investments in technology in the years prior, we were positioned to do that in a really rapid pace. We were able to start offering some services to our customers, curbside banking, for instance, so that we could protect our interactions with the customer. At the same time, I watched with my family Frozen 2, and I don't know if any of you guys have seen this movie, but I'm sure if you have children, you have. And I encourage really anyone to watch it. And the theme of that is to do the next right thing. And COVID was so overwhelming. You were worried about your own personal safety, the responsibility you have to keep customers and your community safe, as well as your vulnerable team members, that it was this giant elephant. And doing the right thing was always kind of a motto we had, or if you do good, you'll do well. But this was so big, it was hard to know where to start. And so we adopted this mantra of doing the next right thing, that we may not be able to tell you what we're going to do next week, but we can make decisions today to ensure that we're keeping a healthy banking environment for our community and our customers and our staff. It started off with us proactively, before any regulators told us that we had the authority to do anything. We contacted every one of our business customers and asked them if they needed any help, if they anticipated any kind of cash flow restrictions because of COVID. And we were able to defer payments for those business customers. We also sent a letter out to all of our consumer customers and borrowers to let them know that they could defer payments if they needed to. And this, again, was before we had really any regulator approval to do so. I think one of the important things to remember as you're conducting your professional life, and I have a great mentor, C.H. Wyatt, who was my former boss, who would tell me repeatedly that it's better to be well thought of than to be well known. But what this time period really showed me was, because I'm really engaged on social media and have a wide network of friends and have always been accessible to meet with just really anybody, no matter what anyone's stage of life was, or what their, how much money they made, or what their position they may hold, whether they're a student or a CEO, I always take the meeting. If something interests me, I'll drive to make the meeting. And making yourself very accessible so that you become known in who you are, not necessarily known by your name, but that people really understand your values and your ethics, and you start finding communities of your people. You want to make sure it's a diverse group of people, but those that have common values or goals, and especially in time of crisis. And that investment over the years for me really paid off in COVID-19. And my favorite and most current example is Mark Cuban tweeted out that he was looking for a community bank to partner with, an FDIC bank to partner with, to get stimulus funds to Americans as quickly as possible. Stimulus checks were going to be available in like 2 weeks. Congress had very bold action to get money to the communities. And I did not see the tweet, but dozens of people did. And they responded to Mark that you have to get in touch with Jill Castilla, not because the name was recognizable, but because they knew that that was the same work that I was trying to do, that we were really trying to help our community to ease this burden as quickly as possible and to quell any kind of anxiety that was out there. Another person got me Mark's email address. I emailed Mark Cuban, and within 5 days, we had an overdraft protection program in place. We had something we had already kind of implemented at the bank, where we were allowing our customers to overdraw their accounts as they waited for their stimulus checks without charging any fees, ensuring that food could get on the table without that concern about the interruption in cash flow for these families. And because of Mark's involvement with that, he was able to amplify that, and hundreds of banks, over 400 banks, contacted us to see how they could implement something similar for their customer base. That led to Mark would send me emails and he has this great accessibility where his email address is available to small businesses, and they were asking for help. But I was also overwhelmed via social media. One Saturday on Twitter, I responded to a DM every minute from a small business looking for help with PPP. I'm basically just being a matchmaker with a paycheck protection program to ensure that they could get the liquidity, and finding a bank in Miami that could help a small business in Miami or in the Bronx or in LA. And it became something I was doing both publicly but also through the DMs. Well, Mark Cuban saw this and sent me an email whenever the forgiveness rules came out and said, we have to do something to help these small businesses. They're overwhelmed with just applying for the Paycheck Protection Program funds, and this 11-page forgiveness application is too complicated for them. He said, if you can find a couple of OU students to write a program for us to automate this application, I'll give you whatever money you need to make it happen. I unfortunately had gone and driven the year before to visit an incubator of startups in the financial technology business, and knew of a startup that had a tool that I thought might be able to be modified for this ask that Mark had. They volunteered all of their resources, Tesla did, And we were able to collaborate with them and in 10 days launch ppp.bank, which is now a nationally available automated application for PPP forgiveness that basically was me, through Mark's idea, coordinating with a couple of other folks to get something implemented in which we all had shared values, this call to action. We used the term economic first responders, that we knew our healthcare community was doing all that they could to help victims of the virus, and that we needed to do all that we could to help those that were impacted financially by COVID. And so by doing so, we were able to implement something so quickly and so well that now hundreds of thousands of businesses are using this tool that previously would have had to go through a paper PDF to be able to complete the application for the fintech or bank that they were working with. It was one of the most exhilarating things I've ever been a part of in my career, because it was so easy, because the intentions were so good. This is a small company. Again, it was very limited resources. Our bank was focused on getting the PPP program processed for our $35 million that we deployed. And so there was not a lot of real resources tied to it, but the speed of the if you do good, you'll do well, how it just manifested itself was extraordinary to be a part of, and something, again, I'll carry with me absolutely forever, to see the power of getting like-minded individuals together, triaging an issue and coming up with the best solution possible. Even though we've had to do several reiterations of ppp.bank in a few weeks, especially as Congress has changed some of the rules, it was great to see getting something out there that was good and then making it better and better. We were just named Finovate's Fintech Partnership of the Year, which is the most prestigious fintech award that you can get. I didn't know that anyone applied for it, but it was just really great to see the goodness coming to this Tesla who volunteered their services and who honestly took a lot of time away from their core business to do something that wasn't going to make them any money. And now they're a darling of the fintech because they did the right thing. And it's just such a great testimony to when we invest in good, even when we don't see, Heard on Her was a good example of this. Heard on Her, my board, when I told them we were going to do a street festival in downtown Edmond and have bands, and downtown was struggling at that time, they thought I was a little crazy, and they asked, like, what are we going to get out of this? And I just said, I don't know. All I know is that it feels like the right thing to do, and we're the ones being called to do it. And by doing that has resulted in more loans than we could have ever said that we wanted to do, and more deposits than we could have ever focused on. It's just, if you continue it, if you have the right intention, and I'm a super type A, I want to know what the results are going to be. But if you have faith and you really can lean into when the right thing presents itself, and that you have the resources to be able to fill that need, it's really an extraordinary ride to be a part of. And when you can do that with other people, there's just no other feeling than to have kind of like-minded individuals with the same intention being called for, have a greater calling than what we do on a normal day-to-day activity. And we can really rise to the occasion in a really special way. I think when looking back on these last 11 years, the big takeaways that I have, and they're not inconsistent with so many things that we've heard from the award recipients, is to be transparent and authentic. I love when I hear a speaker, and we've heard several today, that embrace when they've made mistakes, or from our standpoint, an organization that had a time of trouble. When I started sharing the story that the bank went through a challenge, everyone can relate to that. It didn't decrease the deposits in the bank or anyone's esteem for Citizens Bank of Edmond. It actually helped individuals respect us more and connect with us more, kind of Brene Brown kind of moment with that, where we really are able to connect and we show some vulnerability. And so being transparent and authentic is really important. Another rule that I have is to be accessible. I love social media. I don't necessarily like watching my Facebook timeline in this time of crisis, but being accessible and seeking out others that you respect and that you are inspired by. There is no other time in history whenever we can connect with one another in such an easy way. I've used Mark Cuban as an example, and I've talked with him hundreds of times over the past few months, and that would never have happened without social media. But there's even more impactful people in my life. Scott Williams here in Oklahoma City has become one of my best friends, and that was a Twitter interaction that led to that, and there's so many others. So putting yourself out there, being accessible, but also being genuine and positive. Scott has a role, a gap, be genuine, accurate, and positive, and be out there in social media lifting everyone up so that you're a cheerleader, that you are the rising tide, lifting up the boats. And then it comes around full circle when people really know who you are, when you become well known, that whenever you're called to be that economic first responder, that it's not just you running to the fire, that you've got a team around you running with you. And this is really consistent. The final takeaway is very consistent to Mo's message. And that is to relentlessly pursue excellence. But be okay failing a little bit. Fail small, fail fast, but relentlessly pursue excellence. Those standards that you set for yourself and your organization to always improve and look for how you can lift up the community more, lift up your team more, lift up the citizens of your community more. Those are the ways in which you find the creativity and innovation to really make powerful change. With the accessibility, please do, my phone number is 405-808-8993. You text me anytime. I would love to hear your stories. I would love to include you in my tribe. Thank you so much for having me here today. OK Ethics, this has been extraordinary to be a part of.
Thank you, Jill. That was so wonderful to hear your story and how you've overcome so much, but also been so proactive to help. I love that your mantra has just been do the right thing this whole time. So thank you for sharing with us. I know I've seen a lot of comments through the chat that you are inspiring to others, and that people have loved hearing your message. Do you have time for just a couple of questions if anyone has any?
Yes, of course. I would love that.
Well, I just saw the first, we just saw the first question pop up. Okay, this is from Robert. He says, Jill, we heard how Mo handled someone who was not a good match, and you had your share of separations during the bank turnaround. What would you tell leaders who find themselves needing to clean house, and what are some of the guiding principles for confronting and resolving differences in corporate values or ethical standards?
Such a good question, and one of the, if not the hardest, most difficult issue with managing other people. It can be heartbreaking whenever that occurs, when you have those differences. When my first few years here at the bank, I really wasn't allowed to let anyone go from the institution. So where I love how Mo frames where you provided someone a choice, and I wish I had had that in my toolkit during some of those times. But I think if you don't have the power even to let someone go, to make a change, creating the standards in which where you really would love to go is where peers provide the pressure to conform to certain standards, that there's a self-selection out, because there is this expectation, not just from the leader, but organizationally. And if you aren't rising to it, you just don't, you know that this isn't the place for you. So that, if you can get to that point, is an exceptional place to be. Early on, where I was limited in with the tools that I had available, I was a little bit more creative. So I had an example similar to Mo's, where I had a senior leader who was looking at pornography and sending inappropriate emails on a consistent basis. When I confronted them, they said that they had, someone must have been using their computer, even though I had like all the documentation, as well as someone must have sent the emails as well. They would not, they certainly didn't provide a sincere apology like Mo received, but they also they wouldn't even acknowledge that that was something that they did. And so sometimes it requires there to be just very high standards and very high scrutiny in those types of situations. And so for that individual, I read every single email that came in before they received it, and before any email went out, it was released to them, and they had to be restricted in the accessibility they had on the internet. They ended up self-selecting out because it really wasn't making life incredibly difficult for them, but they understood that there was a standard that we expected there to be maintained. And if you aren't able to have self-discipline, then discipline will be something that surrounds you. That's not what the approach that I would have now that I'm in a position of leadership, because I think those same principles when I talked about transparency and accessibility, that it requires that coaching is something that is not just, you don't coach a little league batter by waiting until the end of the season and yelling at them because their batting percentage wasn't very high, or counseling them at the end of the year that that they didn't have enough hits. It's always tweaking the swing and giving feedback in the moment, so that that team members feel really invested in and understand where you're coming from. When it becomes ethical issues, making it very clear that this is the standard that we have here, and this is the standard that we're all being held to, including myself. But it's a choice to work here, and I'll write you a letter of recommendation and find you a great position somewhere else if that's where you choose to be. But if you want to work here, this is what we expect. And we've seen so many of our team members, the 55 team members that we have, more than half of them have been with me through this time period of and have recovered from the previous kind of poor decision making that was occurring organizationally. So there is a way to rehabilitate team members, but they have to be able to recognize what they're doing wrong and be accessible to it. But again, just that ongoing transparency, being present for someone, not pulling any punches of what you think is right or wrong. And when you don't have the power, just making sure that the policies and standards clearly state exactly what the organizational statements are. For us, Character First was great for us because we could clearly outline, basically just off the shelf, what the standards of the organization were.
Great answer. Thank you, Jill. It looks like we have surpassed our 12:30 mark. So I know, Jill, you have another commitment. I know a lot of other people have other Zooms and things happening here in just a moment. But Jill, thank you so much for sharing your story. Congratulations again to all of our award winners today. Those of you who would like CPEs, please go ahead and say goodbye in the chat before you leave so we can verify your attendance. We also have our next couple of programs are going to be really wonderful. On October 14th, we're hearing from Will Searing. He is the Vice President of Corporate Partnerships for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and we'll be talking about the leadership lessons learned the night the NBA shut down. So I think we'll all be interested in hearing that. We have Dr. Katricia Pearson on November 18th, and our membership drive is now open, which also includes new virtual memberships for this year so that we can serve everyone exactly where they are. So please reach out to us with questions about memberships. We will be in touch with you about renewing as well. But again, thank you all for being here. Thank you everyone who has given your time to make today's program such a success. We've enjoyed having you all here. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.